Hallman worked at Fire Station 35 from 1982 until his retirement. The number of major crimes reported at Los Angeles International Airport dropped nearly 27% last year, and overall crime continues to decline as well, according to statistics released by Los Angeles Airport Police. This while passenger volume is estimated to have increased almost 2.5% compared to 2011. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa said in a statement released by LAX that safety doesn't happen by accident, but that crime reduction at LAX is a result of the city's steadfast commitment to the safety of all Angelenos and the visitors who pass through our city. Over 400 teens with the Pacific American Volunteer Association recently volunteered their time to make Los Angeles a cleaner place. They met outside of Council President Herb Wesson's district office on Southwestern Avenue before heading to several locations throughout the community.
We just get involved, and every month or so we just clean up. No one really appreciates the beauty of, cleaning up, because not many people just go out there to just do that for fun.
Also supporting this event were various homeowners associations as well as the LAPD. And over in Council District 12, some student volunteers also gathered at Limekiln Canyon Park before the new year to take part in a cleanup and beautification event. Limekiln Canyon Park on Limekiln Canyon Road in Northridge is an unstaffed City of Los Angeles pocket park that's open from dawn till dusk. And that means the park often needs a lot of TLC to help it look its best. That's where student volunteers come into the picture. On a recent Saturday, they led a cleanup of Limekiln Canyon Park.
There's many different schools, and I don't know, probably about 40, 50 people came out here and picked up a lot of trash and covered up a lot of graffiti. All of us to get involved and clean up our community and take pride of where we live and do it for a good cause, and maybe meet some new friends along the way.
And this cleanup at the park was no walk in the park. In fact, students even had to venture inside this dark tunnel to pick up trash and paint over graffiti. And outside the dark tunnel, other volunteers also donned paintbrushes to beautify the outside of the shell. For more volunteer opportunities in Council District 12, you can call the district's Community Service Center at 818-882-1212. South LA's homeless population and low-income residents now have a new place to call home as a historic landmark gets transformed into a supportive living facility. Anna Marcos has more on the grand reopening of the 28th Street YMCA.
This grand, elegant building in South LA is from a bygone era, but it's been reborn to fit the needs of the 21st century. After a little rehab, the old 28th Street YMCA in the Vernon area has become the 28th Street Apartments, a living center that provides affordable homes for low-income people and those with mental illnesses. Several of the units will also house young people transitioning from homelessness.
Clifford Beers Housing is beginning to see itself as the Johnny Appleseed of supportive housing. That is, we go about the city building new buildings or rehabilitating old ones to create affordable housing for low-income people, some of whom are living with mental illness. We demonstrate through our work that people living with mental illness can achieve the recovery that allows them to thrive in their communities.
The building was the work of famed African-American architect Paul Williams. Although he left his mark on buildings from Beverly Hills to LAX, his legacy is also evident in much of South LA's architecture, from the Second Baptist Church to the 28th Street YMCA.
His career spanned over 50 years and included 3,000 plus projects. His designs included such landmarks as the Ambassador Hotel, the Beverly Hills Saks Fifth Avenue, the futuristic theme building at the LA International Airport.
And now the new apartments, the community rooms and computer rooms will provide a new shared history for many in the community who need a place to call their own. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The project is a joint effort by the Coalition for Responsible Community Development and Clifford Beers Housing. Additional funding sources included the Community Redevelopment Agency and Wells Fargo Bank. And in this week's list of things to do, ballroom dancing, bird watching, and an impending deadline for LA Student Film Festival. You don't have to be on Dancing with the Stars to dance like the stars. If you're looking for a fun way to burn off those holiday calories and fulfill your New Year's resolution, head on over to St. Euphrasia Church in Granada Hills. The church is offering ballroom, swing, and foxtrot dance lessons every Friday evening through February 8th. The church is located at 17637 Mayerling Street in Granada Hills. For information on cost and how to register, call 818-360-4611. A California towhee was the first bird spotted at the Audubon Center at Debs Park in 2013. More than 140 species of birds have been recorded at Debs Park, which opened a decade ago as an environmental education and conservation center. The center, the fourth largest park in the city of Los Angeles, features community programs and events for children and their families to experience and care for the natural world. The Audubon Center at Debs Park is located at 4700 North Griffin Avenue. To learn more about birding, trails, and other outdoor programs at Debs Park, visit debspark.audubon.org. Councilmember Paul Krikorian is calling on students to finalize projects to ensure they are able to participate in the only film festival solely for Los Angeles County high school students. The deadline for submissions is January 16th, and the Student Media Festival is slated for March 30th at the El Portal Theater in the NoHo Arts District. Student work in the animation, comedy, commercial, drama, or documentary PSA category under 7 minutes in length are eligible. A $500 prize will be awarded to each winning film. For a complete list of guidelines and more details on how to apply to the Student Media Festival, go to lasmf.lacity.org. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do.
And we continue to bring you news of new parks being built here in our city, many of them as part of the mayor's and the Department of Recreation and Parks' 50 Parks initiative, which aims to create recreational space where there once was blight. Anna Marcos takes us to the Valley for the latest Pocket Park grand opening.
This new park is ringing in the new year for some lucky kids in the Valley. Even District 2 Councilmember Paul Krikorian's daughter Lori takes her turn at the ropes. The park on the corner of Fulton Avenue and Van Owen Street is the 6th project in the 50 Parks initiative, a plan to bring some green open space to 50 of LA's most underserved urban neighborhoods by transforming blighted lots into pocket park oases.
Parks are a public safety measure as well. If we don't fund parks, it doesn't matter how much we fund the police department. We will not have a safe community. We will not have a community that offers our young people the kinds of opportunities that they should have.
It's nice to see that we're bringing the city back and making it greener.
A few years ago, this was just an empty DWP yard with a chain link fence and a bunch of dirt. In fact, this whole area was blighted. Now, 2 street corners are part of the River Walkway. 1 street corner has new businesses, and this last street corner is now a playground.
We took a well site. This is an active well site bringing water to the citizens of LA to drink. But it also provided an open space, a space where we could use our imagination.
And by the looks of it, the slides and playground equipment, the ropes, rings, and climbing wall are already getting a good workout. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The playground was built with money from community block grants. And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
The average adult spends more than 8 hours in front of a screen each day. Children spend up to 4 hours. Studies show that sedentary lifestyles put you at risk for disease, even at an early age. but a healthy lifestyle is just a click away. Los Angeles Recreation and Parks provides over 16,000 acres of parkland with parks and lakes, swimming pools, golf courses, skate parks, and dog parks, and more than 180 community recreation centers. A healthy lifestyle is just a click away. laparks.org.
Hi, I'm Nina. This is my daughter Miranda, and we live in Silver Lake. We love the cultural diversity of Los Angeles. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, January 15th. I'd like to welcome all of you to your Los Angeles City Council meeting. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Public is welcome. You can come to just watch your government at work, or if you have something to say, please fill out a public comment card located in the rear of the chambers, and you will be called upon at the appropriate time. Madam Clerk, I believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Buscaino, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Carrasco, Corin, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zine, Wesson. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
All right. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Weezer moves. Mr. Englander seconds. Next.
Committee to resolutions for approval.
Mr. Zine moves. Mr. Reyes seconds. Next.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday, and now would be the time for the flag salute.
Okay, I'd like to ask everybody in chambers to rise for our flag salute. Today we will be led by Councilmember Parks in our flag salute.
Thank you. Could everybody rise? Place your heart, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Okay, Madam Clerk, if we could begin to go through the today's agenda. The first section.
Items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing. There's a request from member to continue item 1A to February 15th.
Okay, without objection. Do we have cards?
Cards on item 1B.
Okay. A card on number, I've been informed we have a card on item 2 as well.
Yes, just received a card on 2.
Okay, so let's vote on the remaining.
There's no other items to vote on this section, Mr. President.
Okay, then let's move on to the next.
Items 3 through 8 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, specials members, Mr. Buscaino, item 4.
Yes, please, thank you.
We could hold item 4. Mr. Labange.
Please. 6, 7, and 8.
Mr. Labange, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, members, any other specials? Well, let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, let's move to the next section. I believe that's 9 through 17.
Yes, items 9 through 17 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are now before us. Mr. Englander?
Item 12, please.
Item 12 from Mr. Englander. Mr. Weezer?
17, please.
17 for Mr. Weezer. And on item 13, I want to send that back to committee, Madam Clerk.
Okay, and that would be back to the Rules and Elections and Intergovernmental Relations Committee.
Yes, Mr. Parks?
I'd just like to register a no vote on 14.
Okay, so let's make sure, Madam Clerk, let's take that up separately. Okay, do we have cards?
Yes, cards on items 10, 11, 12, 14, 16, and 17.
All right. So is there anything left?
Yes, items 9 and 15.
Okay, so on those items, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, where does that take us to?
On the supplemental agenda, items 18 and 19 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, it's my understanding that 19 is to be received and filed. Is that it? Okay, and then we can hold item 18.
And just for clarification, Mr. President, for item 19, it's received and filed without objection.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do before we go to Mr. Labange's presentation, we'll take up, Mr. Parks, I'm going to take up item 14 now. We have one public comment card. That's John Walsh. So, Mr. Walsh, HollywoodHighland.org, if you could please come forward. And this is on item 14.
John Walsh, also blogging at front page online. You're very right, Chief Parks, to bring this issue up. This is about a $1.5 million payout to somebody named Crump. $1.5 million. Now, last night at the debate, Trutanish has been talking about how he's real tough on these settlements. This settlement is much, much too high. You'll go in the back room, and Chief Parks will tell you that it's much, much too high. We should not settle with this person. Everybody go and find out the particulars. I don't have the time. Here, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Okay, Madam Clerk, I believe you need to read this item. Or no? Okay, so let's prepare to, there are no speakers in the queue. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
9 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay, Mr. Labange, are you ready? Okay, at this time I want to turn it over to Mr. Labange for a presentation.
Mr. President, I know you're a great fan of the National Football League, and this time of year they come out and they give the Player of the Year, the Defensive Offensive Rookie of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do right now is introduce the Social Worker of the Year for the state of California 2012. Please give a big hand to Karen Gilman. Karen lives in the district in Larchmont Village, Windsor Square area. She was born in Chicago and attended Evanstown Town High School. And while attending Clareton College, Karen was an honor student as well as a very good friend to all the other students. She also attended the University of Chicago School of Social Service, and we all remember how much this University of Chicago meant to all of us throughout the country, because the social school there was very impactful in the lives of Saul Alinsky and organizing and all the work that came out of Chicago at that time. Karen and her family live on Elmwood Avenue with her husband Michael's here, and involved very much in their community. And the success, as you know, of our neighborhoods are the people who live in them and their involvement in the community. And this couple is a power couple for their involvement in the community and has transformed their neighborhood. She's actively involved in Temple Israel of Hollywood and serves on as the Sisterhood President and currently co-chair of the AIDS Lunch Projects, which distributes food to the needy. Karen also is socially chair for the Western Federation of Temple Sisterhoods, which represents and presents women's positions on legislative policies. She also works with Shane's Inspiration, a nonprofit group that this council years ago helped in the very special needs for children in developing playgrounds, and so many great things that she has done. Well known in the community as a member of the board of Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association, as well as the Land Use Committee for the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council. She received awards from Temple Israel, from the USC School of Social Work, and from the City of Los Angeles for this. Karen Gilman received her prestigious Social Worker of the Year of California from the National Association of Social Workers, and exemplifies what professional values and achievements through her accomplishments mean to a city. So now for this City Council in the John Farrar Chambers at the Grand City Hall, Los Angeles, hereby salute and proclaim the greatness on Karen Gilman, Social Worker of the Year in California 2012.
Thank you.
You can say a few words.
Okay, I'll say a few words.
And Mr. Labange, I would just like to add before you speak that I have 2 of the Shane playgrounds in the district that I'm fortunate to represent, and they're like the most phenomenal playgrounds that I've ever seen where any and all kids can come and find something to do. So if you're a part of that, then you're even a better person than Mr. Labange articulated. So with that said, the microphone belongs to you, Social Worker of the Year.
Thank you, Council President Wesson and Councilmember Labange from my dear Council District 4 where we reside. You know we have our friends here from Council District 4 and our Council District 13 friends who embrace all the volunteer work and the professional work that I do as a social worker with parents of disabled children with special needs at Exceptional Children's Foundation, whose main office where I serve sits in CD10 in Council President Herb Wesson's district. We have the efforts through many council members make possible the more beautiful things that the children with special needs can experience. And I'm grateful to Council President Wesson for mentioning Shane's inspiration, because through Councilmember Paul Krikorian's work in CD2, through Councilmember Richard Alarcon's work in CD7, through Councilmember now Congressperson Tony Cardenas, and many of you were able to produce, well, produce is not an adequate word. We're able to expand and enrich the lives of children with special needs and their parents. And, you know, we're properly using not only the funds that created one more park in every district, but also many more beyond that through public-private partnerships. I have to commend all of you. I have the second to soapbox. Thank you for your newsletters as council members. Thank you so much. I'm on so many of your mailing lists. And whether it's CD13's Councilmember Garcetti's newsletter with a park opening or an activity, or what Paul Krikorian tells me, or what I read in Mitch Englander's newsletter, I'm forwarding that and sharing that with parents all the time. Mrs. Cruz here, who runs one of the parent groups for Lanterman Regional Center out of Children's Hospital, reuses that stuff at her monthly parent group meeting too, and it really, really makes a difference. The parks continue. I know I have this opportunity to thank you for listening to neighbors and neighborhoods and helping continue to honor the quality of life that neighbors want in neighborhoods. Thank you for listening to neighborhood council people's input as well. I've overshot it. Thank you. I love the fact that you've honored me this way.
And I love your husband, too. So let's introduce Michael, her husband, and the rest of the folks here.
In fact, let's give another round of applause to Karen and her husband.
Mike Gilman, our neighbor Darcy Weber, Enid Kent Swerver, and the Cruz family, and Mrs. Irma Cruz and Mr. Edwin Cruz and Luisa, who are here with us today.
And Mr. President, cap it off, my Chief of Staff, Carolyn Ramsey, please make the special flower presentation for, again, Karen Gilman, Social Worker of the Year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. With that said, Madam Clerk, why don't we move? Well, we learned something, Mr. Englander, that there's at least one person that reads your newsletter, so I thought I'd pass that on. But let's move to item 4, called special by Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we can we take the cards first?
Of course we can.
Thank you, sir.
Victor Medina, Candido Miranda, and Janet Sowers. Victor?
Yes.
Go right ahead, sir.
Good morning, Council. Good morning, President. This is a special day for Harbor Gateway, the community of Harbor Gateway. Our dream is coming true. I want to thank our Councilman Joe Buscaino for every minute and every day that we spent with, for this project. I want to thank the staff for backing us up for every meeting that we have every year. This is a project that we've been working for years and years that is finally coming true to our Harbor Gateway community. I'm talking about a park and park, which that community does not have and will have now. And I want to share a quick story. Our president, Janet Shower, which she will be talking, she mentioned to a staff member or to someone that we know is close to us, the last thing I want before I close my eyes is to see a park and park, which impacted and made me cry and made everybody say, you know what, we got to work hard for this. And I want to say to our councilman, thank you, because our dream is coming true, and everybody in that community will have a green place, a safer place for them to play, instead of them playing on the street or playing in an empty lot. We are going to get a park and park. So thank you, councilman, and thank you, council, for everything, as well as Rec and Parks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please come forward and good morning.
Good morning. My name is Candido Miranda. I won't be able to speak as fluently as Victor Medina, but I just want to be thankful that I was able to come here. This will probably be the first and only time I'll be here. So I'm just thankful I am here and be able to speak to the people here. I would like to express my gratitude to the people who got me involved, and also, the blessing to know Mr. Joe Buscaino and to work with Janet Shower, who will be speaking after me. And I also would like to mention the other people I've worked with: Daisy Ibarra, Brian Ferguson, Jacob Hike, Mike Schull, and many other people that I cannot remember mentioning now. I just would like to express the opportunity, my gratitude to be able to speak here. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And you turn the lights off and on, so you're a powerful man. Okay. Please.
I just want to thank all the city council, and especially Councilman Joe Buscaino for their hard work and support of the park. Now all the children in the area will have a place that's safe and can play and be safe. Thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Okay, back to you, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the members of the Harbor Gateway community, to a dear friend, Janet Shower, Victor Medina, Mr. Miranda. Thank you so much. Oh, Mike Scholes here from the Rec and Parks Department. What a great partnership, collaboration that we put together with my team, the residents, as well as the staff from General Services and the Rec and Parks Department. Today is a great day for Harbor Gateway colleagues, and I encourage you, and I know we're going to pass this unanimously. Well, I think often of a dear friend who passed away, Mary Ann Cyphers, who I had an opportunity to work with as a senior lead officer in the harbor area, who is shining down on us today. She is smiling, and she has pushed heavily for a pocket park in Harbor Gateway. She may not be here physically, but she is here spiritually, smiling down upon us. And Mary Ann did so much for the Harbor Gateway community, and this is the last thing we the last thing we could do, for her moving forward with this pocket park. So I want to. I'm pleased that we finally found a parcel of land in the Harbor Gateway community, a community that has given so much to the city. Years ago, we often remember the tragic death of Cheryl Miller, and of the tragic shooting death that was based solely on her race. And this is a community that we cannot ignore, that we so embrace and we so love. And I want to continue to thank Mike Scholl from Rec and Parks for playing a critical role in this endeavor, and Rec and Parks' willingness to accept the transfer. Also, thank you to Gemma Lopez from GSD's Asset Management Division for allowing the transfer of this parcel of land to happen and move forward. With that, colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote so we can give Harbor Gateway its park that they so deserve. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Buscaino, that's just another accomplishment that you've been able to chalk up in the short period of time that you've been here. So I'm very proud of you, and I'm sure the people of the San Pedro area are proud of you as well. And Mike Scholes is a magician from Rec and Park. I mean, this guy, I've seen him literally pull rabbits out of a hat. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with him. So whenever you're getting something done, Mike Scholl is the guy to work with. With that said, and then we said rabbits, and we got Mr. Rosendahl excited. So, Mr. Garcetti.
Yes, I think the Council President just said it, but I wanted to rise and thank both the Harbor Gateway community for their incredible activism. It is a critical part of the city, and you're very lucky to have such a great rep who so early on 1 year in, is already building parks, making things safer, making sure that this city never forgets that vital pipeline, that artery that connects our city together. So congratulations, Joe. You know, these parks are like bits of urban acupuncture. One small insertion of something can transform the health of the entire body of a neighborhood. And having a park within walking distance of every Angelino is a dream, I know, for this council. And thanks for living that out and making that happen, Joe.
Okay, Mr. Buscaino.
I have to acknowledge something I failed to mention. The Los Angeles Police Department and a former partner, John Rosenblum here, representing the Community Relations Office, and also Senior Lead Officer Cook, who was also very instrumental in the Cheryl Green Boys and Girls Club that came to life in response of her tragic death in the Harbor Gateway. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, let's prepare to vote, members. Let us please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, now, Madam Clerk, let me go to item 1, and then we'll follow that up by going to item 2. I'd like to call Mr. Murphy. Sean Murphy, come forward on item 1, if you would, please.
Yes, item 1 is not a good thing. I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. There are no speakers in the queue, so if we could prepare to vote on this, Madam Clerk, let's open the roll.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. President. I believe there's a request to continue this item.
Okay, if there's a request that this be continued to when?
30 days, that would be February 15th.
Okay, without objection. Okay, let's move to item number 2, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Due to an arguable small financial interest that my wife may have that's impacted by this, I need to recuse myself.
Okay, so if we would please take Mr. Krikorian off the board for this vote on item 2. I have one public comment request, and that's from John Walsh, HollywoodHighland.org. Mr. Walsh, please come forward on item 2.
Thanks. 100,000 successful server requests a month. I want to talk to everybody who lives west of La Brea. Now, they don't generally overload you with liquor licenses. This is for the public necessity. Application for alcohol sales at 100 North La Cienega. Okay, let me tell you, as someone who lives near liquor stores, it's all incredible crime magnet. Since they opened the liquor store at Sunset and Vine, there has been a gigantic increase in crime, including a stick-up at one of the just a week ago, at one of the coffee houses. It is bringing crime to your neighborhood. They don't give a damn, but I want you now to call the mayor and tell him you don't want a liquor store in your neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. No speakers on the queue. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, let's move to we can put Mr. Krikorian back on the board, and let's move. Oh, Mr. Koretz, I'm sorry.
I just want to ask that last item go forthwith.
Forthwith. Okay, now we're going to take up item 10. I've got 2 cards on item 10. Donna Pearman, please come forward, and John Walsh, please come forward. We're now on item 10.
This looks like another huge, great, big redevelopment project. I'm not for any redevelopment projects because it smacks to be the CRA. So I don't trust anything where it seems like the area where you spend most of the money, or where you seem to help, it seems to be where the huge amount of people who already have money. In the meantime, all the small businesses are not being helped, and because you're too busy spending money for redevelopment. So this doesn't look like a good project. So I say vote no on it.
Thank you, Ms. Pearman. And I think I heard Mr. Walsh say that he wanted to pass on item 10. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Let's prepare members to vote on this item. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay. Maybe we'll jump to item 16, which is held special by Sean Murphy. Mr. Murphy, come forward on item 16.
Yes, item 16. That item is a temporary thing for a Kingdom Day parade on Saturday. The buses are going to take a detour. That's what the item is all about.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. There are no speakers on the queue, so let's prepare to vote on item 16. If you would please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay. Mr. Englander, are you ready? So we're going to now move to item 12. Members, Mr. Englander, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues, as well. I wanted to go through this street bond a little bit and share with you all that we didn't just wake up one day and say our streets are crumbling. We've got the worst streets in the entire country. We've been working on this for quite some time, and I want to thank my colleague, Joe Buscaino, our newest member, who really hit the ground running, even though that ground is under repair, and has done a phenomenal job since leading his efforts as the chair of Public Works as well. I started working on this issue back in 2004 with Councilman Greg Smith when he then was chair of Public Works. And we did some studies then to show that we were about $1.5 billion with the backlog. Now, 10 years later, that's grown to about $3 billion. I wanted to share with you a couple editorials and let you know where we're at. But first with the LA Times and the Daily News and a couple of things, and I'll just pull some language sort of out of context with what they've said. But the LA Times has said Englander and Buscaino may be onto something. The fact is, there's simply no way that Los Angeles, 11,000 miles of substandard streets, can be brought up to proper condition without additional funding. The city can fill potholes and add thin coats of aging pavement, but has been falling behind on actual repair and replacement for decades. It is part of the phenomenon of a rapidly expanding city. Tax and bond money builds and supports new infrastructure and new subdivisions, but the older ones fall behind. State revenue has replaced funding that was lost to property tax and vehicle license fee cuts, but now is running out. Meanwhile, there's a hidden cost to the city residents in the form of downward pressure on property values, more to the point, in car repair bills. The Daily News went on to say, the price of continuing to neglect repairs is considerable. The economics of rolling out the heavy equipment now for a 10-year repair project are relatively attractive. Interest rates and construction costs are low these days, and repairs would create badly needed private sector jobs, better streets with lower vehicle maintenance costs, and raise property values, among other tangible benefits. However, both papers also went on to say that there needs to be a lot more public outreach. The task for Englander and Buscaino is to demonstrate that their measure would provide more than a temporary respite from declining streets, according to the LA Times. The Daily News also said the proposal is well thought out and promising, but there needs to be extensive outreach. We've met with stakeholders, some of the neighborhood council members, chambers, service clubs, business groups. We've had an extensive outreach effort planned and well underway. But in looking at the depth and the breadth of this, we want people to engage. We want our neighborhood councils and stakeholders and the community throughout the entire city of Los Angeles to have a seat at the table on this, to talk about the ideas of what we should be doing if we're going to go out and repair all the streets. What are the funding mechanisms? And answer all the questions. They've asked a lot of great questions, but we want them to engage. And so therefore, we're going to ask that we continue working on this. And we've got a formal request that Mr. Buscaino will read into the record as well. I just want to close with saying that providing for safe, well-maintained streets is one of the most basic core functions of city government. It is crucial to our economy and to our daily lives. We are excited to have started this important public discussion about investing in improving our city infrastructure to benefit the Los Angeles now and the Los Angeles for the future. We want all stakeholders, community members, neighborhood councils, chambers of commerce, community-based organizations, and businesses to have their opportunity to weigh in, and that has always been one of the central goals of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mitch, for your hard work. You and your team. It was we're going to continue working on this, obviously, and I look forward to your continued partnership on this critical issue. Colleagues, as we know, Los Angeles became the great city it is today because of its infrastructure. Large and ambitious infrastructure projects like the LA Aqueduct, the LA River Flood Control Project, the Hyperion Treatment Plant, the Hoover Dam, the Port of Los Angeles, LAX, and the vast freeway and street systems allowed Los Angeles to overcome the obstacles of growth and expand across 470 square miles and attain the population of 3.8 million people. Unfortunately, while early generations of Angelenos made that initial investment in infrastructure, future generations failed to properly maintain it. The 8,700 lane miles of failed and nearly failed streets in LA are one of the most visible examples of deferred infrastructure investments that we must address. Let me paint a picture for you. When Councilmember Englander worked on this in 2004, they put a price tag on fixing every failed street in the city of Los Angeles at $1.5 billion, and since then, it has damn near doubled. Putting off needed repairs will not cause the problem to go away, but it'll also make it grow larger and more costly. Since proposing this $3 billion bond measure with Councilman Englander, I've met with neighborhood councils, business groups, labor unions, homeowners, apartment owners, and many of you here in this council. Not one single person has disputed the fact that that this project is needed, though many have have requested that we take some more time to ensure that we get it right. And if we get it right, we want to ensure that it's an inclusive process. Ultimately, it's the residents and taxpayers of Los Angeles that will make the final decision on whether or not to approve this project. So it's vital that we take the proper time to answer questions, listen to suggestions, and make changes that will give us the best chances of success. With that, Mr. President, I move that we amend the motion to request the city attorney propose and advise on potential ballot language for a street repair and safety general obligation bond program to be placed on a future ballot yet to be determined. In addition, Mr. President, I would also request that you refer the matter to the Public Works Committee to allow more time for study, debate, public input, and outreach on this proposal. It's my intention as Chair of Public Works to hold a series of special public committees meetings across the city to make it more convenient for the public to participate in this process and weigh in on such a critical and important matter that we have. Thank you so much, and again, thank you, Mr. Englander. You want to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Englander.
Second that motion.
Okay. There are other speakers in the queue, and I will get to them, but I want to just give a special thanks to Mr. Englander and Mr. Buscaino for tackling a big problem within the city of Los Angeles, knowing that you would get some pushback for doing something like this, but it's very important that we have a conversation about this issue. And I'm very pleased that the two of you have decided to keep this conversation alive. And just to make sure that I understand what it is you want to do, we're going to make a request that the city attorney give us some draft language that Mr. Buscaino, you will then have in the Public Works Committee, and you'll have committee hearings throughout the entire city of Los Angeles where neighborhood councils and homeowner associations can weigh in and give their input. And you are making this request with no date as to when this would be placed on the ballot. You want to make sure you have the conversation with Angelenos first. Is that correct?
With clarity, that also removes any potential for the May ballot, just okay. So we state that.
All right. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, I just want to thank the two young guys here. The truth of the matter is, when I was chair of Public Works, I pushed the same thing to do a bond measure. We're never going to get this done unless we commit ourselves to it. But when the neighborhood council said their process, of course, you got to vet it through the neighborhood councils. That's what they're there for. And a couple of 3 months to do that ain't going to hurt nothing. But the reality is we need to spend more money on our sidewalks and on our streets. I would prefer to get as much Measure R money as I could and squeeze that into the mix as well. I think there's multiple approaches, frankly, for us doing it, but we have to do it. That's why I appreciate you raising it, bringing up the issue. You can count on my vote whenever we got it together enough to do it, because it's a critical thing to do. To have so many streets in poor shape, meaning we can't touch them because it costs $7 rather than $1, or whatever the story ended up being with me, that's unacceptable, obviously. Because all constituents should have sidewalks and streets that work, okay? So as you go through a process, as we continue to vet it with community, if we can get Measure R money, if we can do bond money, whatever we can do, we should do a combination of that going forward. Because frankly, since I've been on this council, almost 8 years, I've been talking about those poor streets. And, you know, it's a joke. What we end up doing is schmoozing enough with the general managers that we get a certain street here and a certain street there, and we're happy about the one over there. But the truth of the matter is we need to do a lot more than we're doing. So I just want to thank Buscaiani and Englander for putting that leadership out there. You can count on my support when it's appropriate as the process continues to be vetted in the communities.
So that's how you do it, Bill, schmoozing?
You got to schmooze with people.
Well, thank you. I learned something today. Okay, next, Ms. Perry.
He doesn't like that.
Okay.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wanted to ask Mr. Miller a question, and I'm also very pleased that this is going back to committee so that we can do more extensive due diligence on this. And your willingness not to put a time frame on it in terms of when to go on the ballot is even better, because I think it'll give the public a measure of comfort that we're actually going to work hard to make sure that we're inclusive. One of the things that I'm very interested in, and I know that there are streets in the city where, you know, the various levels of governmental responsibility in terms of maintaining them, but having represented downtown for 11 years, I can tell you the discussions I've had many times with the county of Los Angeles on terms of who shares what responsibility for sidewalks and roads in certain areas. And so what I want to know from you, our streets are not just used by property owners, and I'd like to ask if there's some way we can be even more inclusive in the analysis from the CLA and the CAO's office, if you will, on use of our city streets by buses, by trucks, by non-property owners. Is there any way to expand that universe, any sort of legislative logic or rationale that we can use to examine the impacts of those users and how they might participate in generating a stream to help us repair our streets, since they're using them anyway?
Well, that's certainly something that we can look into. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I suppose we could look into layering on some sort of a use fee, for example, because a general obligation bond obviously would be paid for by property owners within the city. Right. So we would have to look to see whether there are other potential revenue sources that are linked to the uses of city streets, by entities that perhaps aren't even located in the city but are going through the city.
Right. And one other point I wanted to make is I would really like to see in the analysis what Measure R will cover, and then back that out, and then in your analysis if we can see what remains in terms of miles, footage, sure, linear footage of what remains to be restored or repaved.
Sure.
Okay? Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Mr. Koretz? And Mr. Koretz, I did not see you this morning.
Where was I supposed to be?
Was it breakfast?
Labor breakfast. MLK labor breakfast.
Oh. Wasn't on my calendar. Whoops.
You were missed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is an important issue in every district. I can tell you I have a hot off the presses issues poll in my district, and somewhat to my surprise, although not totally because it's the biggest complaint we get. When we ask people, what is your number one issue? In my district, it is the condition and the bad condition of our streets. Shockingly, 2-to-1 over crime and public safety. We're doing a good job on crime. We're doing a terrible job on streets. We have for decades. The city hasn't had the revenue to keep up with it, so I'm not flogging my predecessors on the council, but it is what it is. Our streets are in terrible condition. I thank Mr. Englander and Mr. Buscaino for addressing this and trying to find a comprehensive way to do it. I can tell you that some of the very same people that have been complaining in my district about how bad the streets are have been complaining about how rushed this is and how they want to have a dialogue and how they oppose this on the May ballot. And I think we need to work on this with our various communities long enough that we go hand in hand towards the ballot. So I think that's the only way this particular item will pass. And honestly, if it's done, it shouldn't be done and viewed as a tax upon the people. It should be something that we've all worked on together to solve a mutual problem that we all agree is there. So I'm excited about the concept. I'm just as excited about the fact that we're going to work with the community to bring a consensus and then bring it to the ballot, however long that takes. And I think this will be one of the greatest things we've done in the city of Los Angeles once we do it.
Thank you, Mr. Kretz, I agree with you. Not all of us, when we go to community meetings, I would say this is, these issues are right up there in the top tier of questions we get when we're out in the community. Mr. LaBonge?
Thank you very much. And Mr. Miller, if you could just go here as we go forward, and I want to thank Mr. Englander, Mr. Buscaino. I think we have to look at it, if this is the time, by regions. If we look at the city of Los Angeles, there's 7 planning areas. Because right now, Mr. Wesson, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Garcetti, Mr. Reyes, all represent the Wilshire area in some form, from Koreatown to MacArthur Park to Fairfax District to the West Adams District. But if we look at it regionally, could our dollar go further? Because now you have to look at it by 15. If you cut the pie by the planning areas of the city, possibly we could do better strength. Because when the teams of crews, paving crew 152 comes into Wilshire, and then it's 2 days there, and it's 2 days in Mr. Weston's district, and 3 days in Mr. Koretz, would it be better served if we look at it regionally? And to follow on Ms. Perry, look at the county and the county ordinances. There's some things that we can enact because of regionalism. But I wouldn't want to charge people who visit our city or charge people who don't live in our city a fee to be in our city, to be on our streets. But I think that has to be worked out. And since we have time, Mr. Buscaino, look about the sidewalks. Because I remember when Janice Hahn put a card out of a woman who fell on a sidewalk, sitting right over there, fell on a sidewalk in San Pedro, and how horrible it is. So all this is time. If we're really serious, let's take the time to look at it, but let's do it regionally. Let's do it not by a council district, but by a region, and have a program and make sure we work with water and power, because just as our streets are getting older, the infrastructure underneath the ground is getting older, and we have to coordinate, because nothing makes people more upset when we fix a street today and tear it up tomorrow. But regional, you understand regionalism? Thank you so much. I didn't mean it that way, Jerry.
Okay. Did you ask Mr. Miller a question? He's there. Ask him a question.
I know, but I just wanted him here regionalism.
Okay. All right.
We haven't really done that before. We do it by 15. Let's do it by the...
He heard it.
Last thing, though, Mr. President, if we look at the city by our regions in our planning areas, I think we could be more successful from a combined effort. Thank you.
Okay, Jerry, I'll ask you a question. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, fine. With that said, no more speakers on the queue, Madam Clerk. So the appropriate action would be to I'm glad you mentioned that. The public comment on this item has been satisfied because we had public comment last week, and I usually mention that in the beginning, and I did not today. Mr. Englander, do you have a problem if we do 1 minute? I think we had... Raise your hand.
If I could, I think the spirit in which we're asking the additional outreach, the fact that we're listening to folks, and not pulling this back but moving it forward, in fact, to the community should allow for that 1 minute.
Okay.
That would be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so on it, Daniel, guess, Mr. Walsh, did you have a card? Who else had a card on this? Have you? Okay, and then I'll get to you. I'll ask you to raise your hands again. Donna, why don't you come up behind John, and we'll have a minute each. Daniel, go right ahead.
Right on, Mitch Englander. Thank you for that. What people aren't talking about is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, Antonio Villaraigosa, who won't sign this in order to protect the half-cent sales tax. I want to know why Pasadena and Glendale and West Hollywood and Burbank have great streets. It's because they spend $1 on public safety and streets. Why does the city of Los Angeles not spend $1 on public safety and the streets? I want to know how much money we spend on travel for sister cities and other sacred cows. How come we're spending $10,000 on a poet laureate, but we have to float a bond for this? The festivals, bringing back Broadway is a great idea, but we're putting all of those things ahead of the streets. Remember when Zuma Dog came here all the years and talked about event fee waivers? It's because these are the things that should be taking top priority, and they're not taking top priority. We do need great streets, and this is a great idea, but we should be spending $1 and $2 on public safety and the streets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. John Walsh, HollywoodHighland.org.
Go to Eyewitness News, Newsmakers. Villaraigosa. Google that and you will see the comment on Sunday that Villaraigosa said. He said, I'm not signing this. And why did he say he wasn't signing the $3 billion bond so it would go on the ballot? He didn't say for more input. He said it would harm the chances of the half-cent sales tax. Who do you believe out there? Your own eyes or your own ears, and Villaraigosa or John Walsh. When I'm backing the mayor, you know, they don't have the votes. They would have had all the votes. They could go and see what Villaraigosa, Adrienne Alpert, the best reporter with Conan Nolan in the city. She got him to admit it. The only reason they're not doing this is they want you to vote for the half-cent sales tax. HollywoodHighlands.org. You are all
Thank you. Donna Pearman and Dow House Dude.
Yeah,
yes,
one
Donna.
area I agree with Councilman Jan Perry. She said we should hold off on this and be able to get a committee because, truthfully, I don't trust how you're going to get the streets done. Because I've seen how you've done it when you turn out the streets. You tear it up, and then they don't go back on it for a long periods of time, making it a lot worse than it was in the beginning and before you even started. So I really like to see this studied specifically and see exactly what they have planned, where they're going to do these things, because I'm hoping this is a sales tax measure and not a bond issue, because we certainly it's not fair to have the homeowners pay for everything that's done used by everybody. So it better not be a bond issue, and I really think we should wait on this and see exactly where they plan to have these streets done, and if they tend to do them in a timely fashion, because I'm tired of having streets and sidewalks torn up and then left for 3 months later. Thank you.
Thank you. Dow House Dude.
Today I represent a guy from outer space, Fart Vader. The problem is that you're always working in a backwards way. You could have people fixing the streets without all your expensive contracts, without all your red tape, without all your kickbacks and all those things. We could actually fix the streets more effectively if we leave it up to the citizens. Government by the people will work better than government by a few bureaucrats. And that's what we need. We need a way to fix society. And you are not going to do it the way you do it. I suggest an amendment to do an amendment, and I suggest a red tape to do another red tape, and I suggest that we wait another 30 years, and I suggest that we can get the money out of the...
Thank you very much. Sir, if you please come forward and identify yourself. I'm sure I have your card.
Mr. Juarez, right here.
Okay, your name is?
Mr. Juarez.
Okay, go right ahead, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. And wake up, Justice Department. The Department of Justice for all, for no justice for the homeless downtown. And Mr. David, the chief of Los Angeles Police Department sent the police officer, cold blood killer, to chasing them. And that is against the Constitution of the United
President,
States.
This is not regarding this item.
And remember what I tell the chief.
Sir.
Chief, before you start with the gang member.
Sir, you have to speak on this item. You're not speaking on the bond. This is about the bond.
For years.
But you have to speak on the bond. So if I could get the next gentleman to please come forward. Sir, and if you'd please identify yourself so I can try to find your card.
My name is Dennis Hyndman.
Your name is Dennis?
Hyndman.
Gotcha. Go right ahead, Dennis.
Well, a few facts. The World Economic Forum ranked the condition of U.S. roads 20th in the world. An ASH2 report states that 25% of U.S. urban roads are in poor condition. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, through 2025, the U.S. faces a $189 billion shortfall in the cost to maintain urban roadways and needs $375 billion more to make significant improvements. A Federal Highway Administration study indicates that for every $1 billion spent on highway construction, nearly 28,000 jobs are generated annually. They also estimate that each dollar spent on road improvement results in an average benefit of $5.20. A TRIP report indicates that motorists in LA pay an average $746 more annually in vehicle costs due to poor road conditions. The Federal Highway Administration testing indicated that a 10% decrease in road roughness led to a 4.5% increase in fuel savings. That alone is about $97 per year less in motor fuel costs for every household in LA at current gas prices. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Please come forward and identify yourself for me.
Joanne Yavanek Garb, West Hills
Gotcha.
neighborhood.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for delaying the vote because that's one of the things. You took the wind out of my sails on that one, but that's okay. Today is kind of a busy day because right now they are up at the county supervisors having a hearing on the stormwater drains. So to have two hearings on similar motions that would increase our property tax is really kind of difficult. I just wanted to remind you that it was not the citizens of Los Angeles who allowed this street travesty to happen. The blame falls directly on the shoulders of our city leaders. This is something that's going to have to be thoughtfully put through as well as financially because people are getting a little tired of being, well, I would say nickeled and dimed to death, but it's more like $5 and $10 to death. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward and identify yourself. And is that Glenn Bailey in the back? Yeah. Yes.
Nina Royal, Treasurer.
Got you, Nina.
San Latanga Neighborhood Council. We voted last week to oppose having this put on the ballot in such a quick time. If you all would remember, the neighborhood councils is supposed to be your partner. If you come to the neighborhood councils first and you vet this, which you bypassed us, and this is not the first time, we wouldn't be taking our time here today doing this. Our position is no new taxes, no revenue. As a former budget advocate, this should have come out of the general fund and not a special tax. So we're asking you to go back and look at that, and you should look at what the budget advocates come up with, because I'm no longer a budget advocate because I found you didn't do a bloody thing that was ever presented. So it's a waste of our time, but please pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. I had your card. I just didn't see you out there. Go right ahead, sir.
Good morning. Glenn Bailey. First of all, this is an important issue, and I'd like to commend Councilmember Englander and Buscaino for putting it front and center. What the neighborhood councils objected to was the way that this was then handled. To waive it out of committee and to bring it to full council a few days later is not the public process. That's separate and independent of the 60 days, at least 60 days, that neighborhood councils are requested to consider things. I think we did you a favor because I don't think that the May ballot, given the low voter turnout, that you would have achieved the 2/3 voter turnout that this would have required. We need to drill down on the actual costs. There's different figures, whether this includes interest or not. I've heard the $3 billion would actually cost us 4.5 or more. The Citizen Oversight Committee, in the past, this has been composed of CAO, CLA, and the mayor's rep. That's not a citizen's oversight, so we need to make sure the neighborhood council's there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Okay, and last I had Big Jim McQuiston. I think Jim left. So, members, let's prepare to, and again, I want to thank the members of the public for reminding me, and I want to thank Mr. Englander and Mr. Buscaino for allowing you guys to at least speak your mind on this issue. So with that said, let's vote, folks. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All righty
And
then.
that's adopted as amended.
All right. So with that said, Mr. Huizar, item 17. Mr. Huizar, you ready? Item 17.
Thank you, Mr. President. And first, I want to thank Ms. Perry and Mr. Parks for bringing this to the council's attention. And council members, I am hopeful that all council offices will help us get the word out about counting the homeless in our city. And as you know, this event that happens or will happen will collect data to not only build awareness of the need to provide more services to our homeless population, but also it would help us in addressing the issue and what is the best way to go about it. This year, the Skid Row area providers are leading a Count Plus event in which they not only will count the homeless, but will also interview as many as possible so as to provide more details about how best to assist these individuals. I think we are doing a better job now in collecting data and connecting the dots with personal information in a shared database. I think we can better coordinate and prioritize outreach and service provision. Anybody in the public who wants more information, they can go to theycountwillyou.org, theycountwillyou.org. And finally, I want to thank LASA for coordinating the event again this year. My office is helping out and volunteering in Skid Row, Eagle Rock, and Northeast LA, and we've also provided some resources for them to do the job they need to do. And finally, during the cold snap that we are experiencing, on Sunday night, another overnight death occurred on the streets of downtown. This should not happen. Getting better information about individuals will help us better connect the dots. Thank you very much.
Okay, we do have some speaker cards on this item, and we do have several folks on the queue. Okay, so let's go with the queue, then we'll go back to public comment. So Councilmember Rosendahl and Councilmember Perry.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President. This is critical, and I say to my folks in Venice especially, so much of our energy is spent on dealing with homelessness. We have the homeless from all over the world on Venice Beach, and some of it is a significant crime potential problem for us. We're in the process right now, folks. On Monday, we will have a storage facility at the substation where people can put their belongings who want to get into the winter shelter program. Which we're not filled up yet because we don't have all the possessions of the people under lock and key, and at the same time be able to give them the support system they need. We're critically moving forward with that. Starting on Monday, there will be that set up over there by the police substation. I'm very happy about that. But the bigger question is going to be, how many homeless do we have? And what is their story? What is the background? Homelessness is a disgrace for the richest country on earth, a disgrace, and I'm ashamed. Be it this president who spent his day before he got sworn in first time painting a teen center and set the tone, but unfortunately the resources from the federal level have not been significant. There are more resources from the county level. I must say that Mark Ridley Thomas has really stepped forward with me on a lot of the projects in my district and has done a great job. I got about 150 former homeless people now in different structures, including many of you know Tom Safran. I'm building 124 units that in February, 30 will be former homeless people processed through the St. Joseph Center. and we will have permanent services there at the facility. You must be 62 or older to be part of the facility and poor. So, you know, we can build affordable housing. We can build permanent housing with supportive services, but we obviously need the resources. So I say to Venetians, if you want to be part of the solution, take part in that count. Go out there, interview these people, get to understand the situation, and help us develop the appropriate solutions. And thank you very much, Mr. Weezer and Ms. Perry, for your leadership on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Perry and Councilmember Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The homeless count is extremely important because it identifies as close as possible how many people we have here in the city who are actually defined as someone who does not have a permanent home. When you go into shelters or housing developments and do a bed census where you have the number of beds and count that night, that's fairly easy to count. But what's more difficult are people who are living in areas that are more remote, around the Hanson Dam, out in Sunland, Tahunga, people who are just not on anybody's radar, on anybody's grid. And so that's why this is so very important. It's extremely difficult to find children. It's extremely difficult to find people who are undocumented and homeless. And it's extremely difficult to find people who are not in any social service network. And so I hope that for all of the folks who are listening here today, I've done the count before as a part of the census in the year 2000, to take, even if it's a few hours the night of the count, and go out and help count people who are here, even though we can't see them every day and we don't realize that they're there, they're here. It will help us all. It will help them most of all to be able to get more services, for us to build more housing with support services on site. And this is an extremely critical moment that comes around only once in a cycle. So we need to take advantage of this and fully engage people in the city to understand that if you really want to do something about homelessness, this is where you start, by counting people. Thank you.
Councilor Labange.
Thank you very much. And I know with Mr. Garcetti, we worked over the years on Hollywood Forward and all the count in Hollywood, which is key. I think as all of us expressed that. The one thing I just got asked when we look at it is where there's federal land, we should put federal housing for that. And Mr. Rosendahl, I know you've done a lot of work out in the VA area, but the more work is necessary to provide more housing, and every parcel of land should be looked at for possible housing, which is key as we go forward on that, as we build for that, try to help. We also have many people who live in the hills, and some, as you know, Mr. Reyes, live in the river. Just recently, a homeless person was trapped on a barge of sand in the Griffith Park, Elysian Park corridor there. So this really is important, and I thank all who are involved in that. And Mr. Weezer, I always thank you for the work that you do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. My office works closely with the Homeless Services Authority and nonprofit organizations like PATH. And I asked the residents in Council District 5 to help us volunteer for the count. My office has formed a team Koretz. Many of my staff are volunteering. But I know they need 5,000 committed volunteers, so I think we need to ask folks in the community to join us. It's a lot larger than the last count, which occurred in 2011. I thank everyone for their hard work and their effort to fulfill the needs of the homeless, which is not an easy task.
Thank you, Councilman. We have several cards on the public comment. We have Daniel Gus. I'd like to come on up. And then John Walsh.
I'm reading from a letter from an attorney named John Henning to Mayor Villaraigosa's office. Several years ago, Jim Bickhart of the mayor's office went on the Venice homeowners website and posted the following comments and retained his job. This is from Jim Bickhart of the mayor's office, according to attorney John Henning, about the homeless people in Venice. Quote, "Who cares? Villa La Grossa is just as big a coward as Rosendahl. Maybe the Venice stakeholders are right. If these homeless folks won't leave, We should get someone to come around with a semi, load the homeless scum into it like stinking sardines, and drive them out to the Mojave. Dump them there in the dead of night, blindfolded, and drive away. Period. End of story. Close quote. And Mr. Bickhart still is employed by the city of Los Angeles in the mayor's office. Further quote. Next time one of these wussies heckles you, just pop them one. No, they protect scum. They should be treated like scum. It doesn't matter if they make money sucking on the government tit or if they're Wolfgang frigging blankety blank. Time is running short. Close quote. So we can stand here and talk about all the things we want to do to help homeless people. My charity helps animals that belong to homeless people. But if you work for the mayor of Los Angeles, you can threaten violence against homeless people in Los Angeles. Keep your job, keep your pension. So let's see the council members find out how you can do this and maintain your paycheck from the city of Los Angeles. This is from an attorney, John Henning. Mr. Bickhart was suspended. He remains on probation, and I'm tired that my taxpayer money is going into his pocket.
Thank you, sir.
If you want the document, you can
John
have
Walsh.
it.
John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org. I'm serious when I tell you that the best organization fighting homeless is Winchell's Donuts. Because I go there on Hollywood Boulevard and meet them and talk to them. Now, you can talk about counting the homeless forever. You've been doing it for 20 years, and the group, that is nonsense. There is no outreach. I talked to a woman sitting there next to me at Winchell's on Vine Street. She's living in an unheated trailer with her 10-year-old daughter. They're from Colorado. That child is going to die. She's so homeschooling the child. These are Caucasians. Also, you pretend that there are no Caucasian homeless. That's racist, incidentally. These people up here have no interest because there is a bureaucracy, the poverty pimp bureaucracy. I asked this woman, have you ever been outreached? Has anyone from this city ever come up to you? And she's been here for a year and a half. She said no. I asked the 10-year-old child through her mother. She said no. You have no outreach. You can fold your counts in 4 ways, and Mr. Rosendahl knows what to do with it. He's not sitting there. He doesn't give a damn when I get up here. And I'm telling you right now, the problem gets worse and worse because you have a poverty pimps that never go out. I'm asking you to go down to every Winchell's because this is what the Winchell does. If you buy one drink at the Winchell's, they allow you 24 hours in there. 24 hours. They are a great company. Go to Winchell's. They do more to fight homelessness than these people up here. These poverty pimps. Hollywood. I'll go with you to Winchell's any day and start pointing out the homeless there. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you very much. Juan Dollhouse.
All right, this issue is just right down my aisle. You know what? You are doing everything wrong. Counting the homeless is totally stupid. You know why? Because we have more homeless every day, thanks to your policies. The banks were bailed out over trillions of dollars, and the people were left out. The banks keep foreclosing on housing, on homes, and creating more homelessness. We have a homeless making system, and until you change it, you will change nothing. Homelessness is a stupid issue because you all sit there. Mr. Alarcón is roaming the streets because he can get no help. The son of the city police chief in Fullerton was killed for his homelessness. You see, people in high authority have homeless relatives. Why? Because we have a homeless making system. Read my book, you idiots. the United World of Free and Clear. It says there we can create a system where everybody has a home and nobody can go homeless for any reason. Read the book, The United World of Free and Clear. It's just a simple formula, and anybody can add a chapter to it. Anybody can subtract the things they don't like, but we together can work on ending homelessness forever around the world, not just in the city of Los Angeles, around the world.
Thank you. Okay, no speakers in the queue. So, Madam Clerk, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, before we go to Mr. Labange, we have an individual with us that is no stranger to City Hall, an individual that has been a dedicated staff guy, very committed. We know him. He was the director of our AIDS department for a long time, and he's up to be appointed to the Commission on Disabilities members. That's our dear friend Steve Simon, and I don't see any speakers in the queue, Steve, which means we might just be able to vote you, confirm your confirmation. Mr. You didn't get the hint I dropped, but Mr. Alarcon.
Chaired the committee that oversaw this nomination, and obviously Mr. Simon is very well known to the people around this horseshoe and the city of Los Angeles, having done tremendous work as our AIDS coordinator for many, many years. He has moved on, but is still doing work in the private sector relative to marketing for disability-related causes and many other things. But he is an exceptional nomination that we have received. I anticipate his unanimous vote, and my comments are really just to let the public know we know who this commissioner nominee is, and we're not just passing anybody who comes along.
No, this is a good man. Ms. Perry.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that this is an exceptional appointment. He's already demonstrated through his city service and his community service his exceptional knowledge and sensitivity to people who are at risk and have special challenges in their lives. So I think the only direction we're going to go on this commission now is up.
And I agree with Ms. Perry. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've worked with Mr. Simon for many years, since back when he was with the AIDS Project Los Angeles. I guess it would be a good 13 years ago. We rarely have people that are quite this qualified for a perfect choice commission. I'm looking forward to his good work. I'm very excited that he's been nominated, and I encourage everyone to cast an aye vote.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's interesting multitasking in this world, isn't it? All the time that we have to play out all these angles of life. Steve Simon, come on up there. I want to put you in the light, please. Many of you know I've known Steve for many, many, many years. As a gay man, as a leader in the fight against AIDS, absolutely one of the most gifted, treasured part of our LA family is you. And I can't thank you enough for your leadership while I've been here on council. And as you know, it's a very sensitive issue to me. I lost my first partner, Christopher Lee Blauman, to AIDS. My second partner, we've been together 17 years, and we still don't have our basic human and civil rights. So this court better act and allow us to successfully exchange vows and get the same benefits as everybody else. And I know when you're back in D.C., you're going to provide some of that leadership for all of us. But today, you're here to get appointed to the Disability Commission. Is that correct? Correct. Well, let me just say this to the public as well as my colleagues and to you. I never knew how difficult it is to really be in compliance with people of my disability. I spend half my time looking down to make sure there isn't a rut, there isn't an incline or a stupid rug that I can trip over. The ability to move around is almost impossible. You just saw what happened in San Francisco. up there in Sacramento. They redid the whole damn airport, and yet it's not in compliance with ADA stats. Okay? So take it from a person, as you well know, that I'm a very positive spirit. I'm always looking at the bright side of things. I always see the glass half full. I always believe if you love yourself and your neighbor as yourself and don't judge, you're doing the right thing. And that's how, I live my life. But this whole handicap business, we need real leadership on it. And I'm expecting that kind of leadership from you on the committee, that you will fight for people in my disability stage. I'm getting stronger every day. I don't want to die, at least not for the next 20, 30 years. And I intend, if the good Lord gives me that opportunity, to live. And I'll throw a little footnote. I get so many people coming to my house with delicious food. Folks, keep bringing it. I love it. And then you also come to the house and we pray. I don't care if it's a rabbi or if it's a Catholic or if it's a Protestant, an atheist, a Baha'i. It doesn't matter as long as we all appreciate humankind. Now, in that capacity, I just left an interview there with a reporter to walk back in here to be clear as I can conceivably be. And that is, you have a great job ahead of you. It's not going to be easy. All of us with disabilities, especially those running around like me with walkers, trying to get stronger and healthier, need your leadership on that commission. When I met with other commissioners and I heard their pain and felt their energy, there's nothing like getting it yourself, like me right now at this moment. Talk is cheap. It's the reality of what we're dealing with in this world. And I just hope we can find ways to make everything compliant so that when we walk around, we can walk around legitimately. Last comment I want to make is, to my own property where I live, I've put more guardrails up in the last few months. I can almost move everywhere now on my property because I have guardrails everywhere. And even a lift to go upstairs is something I'm working on getting right now. But I'm also blessed. I have two nephews, Chris and Frank, who are at the house now helping me move around. I have 3 caregivers that have been working around the clock with me and helping me. And like I said, I have hundreds of friends who've come by to provide me delicious food, plus prayer and conversation and emotional support, which we all need as humans. And so tell me, when you look at your job on this commission, how are you going to function differently than the way it's been functioning, and how are you going to make it better?
Bill, look at your time.
Okay, that's the end of my comments, too. Go ahead. You answer that.
In a nutshell, I believe the Commission on Disability has been underutilized by the city. We have the opportunity now in tough economic times to make the city more accessible in its programs and services while saving money, because we can reduce liability by doing so. So bottom line is, with transportation, with housing, with basic city services, I look forward to bringing my law and policy expertise to work with you to make that change and keep Los Angeles where it's been in the forefront of disability access for major cities in America. We can continue to improve and, again, quite frankly, save dollars in the process.
I love you saying
Thank
that.
you, Mr. Zine. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. It's good seeing you again. You have done such a great job. It doesn't matter what they give you. You can get it done. Just an issue that has been brought up by one of my deputies. Her dad lives in an assisted care facility north of Roscoe in the West Hills area in the 12th District. And he used to use one of those services that would pick you up and transport you around. But they said they don't handle anything north of Roscoe. It's still the city of Los Angeles. And I'm wondering, and I told my deputy, contact the different city services. No one serves anything north of Roscoe Boulevard, which I thought was kind of unique. There's a lot of seniors, a lot of disabled, a lot of people need to go to different venues. And if it's south of Roscoe, I think it's called City Ride, where it's a nominal fee. They will pick you up, they'll transport you. And if I can get your contact and have her contact you, because there's a whole population out there that needs to have transportation for general purposes, doctors, shopping, etc. So I thought it was unusual that that seemed to be the dividing line. It's not like it's another county or another city. It's all within the boundaries of the city of Los Angeles.
And we'd love to certainly make the commission more available and accessible and visible so folks know to come to the commission to ask those kinds of questions. Absolutely. Between access services, between City Ride, between MTA, we should be a liaison between council, between constituents, and so on with the department and providers. I'd love to talk to your staffer on that.
Because there's a lot of disability with the senior population. Obviously, they need of transportation, and they can't afford, to wait at a bus for the bus stop. But these pick them right at their residence. So I will get your information and have her contact you. I appreciate that. But obviously, you're going to do well in this. You've done well in everything you've done, so it's not a surprise. So congratulations to you. Good seeing you again. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Mr. Huizar.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Thank you, Mr. President. Just quickly, I want to thank you for your service, not only for your willingness to serve on this commission, but your work you've done here. I think Mr. Zine wrapped it up very well when he started, in that you really get the work done. And the projects I've worked with you on, you've followed them through, and they needed a council vote. You're here to see the vote finally happen. So I think the commission is going to be well served with you there. So I'm really excited to see you there. And you're right. I think this commission has been underutilized. There's a lot of work to be in this area. But I think with someone like you on there who knows the issues, gets things done, I think we will continue to see some improvement there to really be an advocate for folks who need the services. So thank you so much. And I love your last name. You say Simon. I say Simon for my last name. For my son. My son's name is Simon. So, well, we call him Simon once in a while.
Okay, let's vote for Stephen Simon. Members, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Congratulations, Steve.
Gracias.
Steve. Forthwith. Per Mr. Labange, forthwith. Okay, Madam Clerk, what we're going to do now, we're going to take up 3 items together. Mr. Labange, if you'd return to your workstation, at Mr. Labange's request, we're taking up items 6, 7, and 8. Mr. Labange, the floor
Thank you,
is
members.
yours.
I just wanted you to be aware of these traffic safety, traffic issues. All these issues, I want to ask that you bring it to your attention to your deputies. In the next 30 days, a report will be drafted by the various departments to look at this and come back for a full report to council. And I wanted to bring it to your attention, Mr. President. Thank you. Please contact our office if you want to be involved, because traffic safety is a preventable challenge, as we know, with more people. And I know some of you had very personal impacts in this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. I have 3 cards on this item. My friend Daniel Gus. What now? Well, we'll take up Daniel Gus, because I already indicated that. Sean Murphy and John Walsh. Please come forward.
Sure.
Minute each.
Just on the traffic safety issue for Mr. Labange, and it goes hand in hand with the homeless, is panhandling that we have at street corners and lights. I work a lot with dogs. I work a lot with homeless people to provide services for their dogs, and very often homeless people who are panhandling near streetlights and on and off ramps of the very often the dogs run into traffic. It makes a bad situation worse. The City Council of Worcester, Massachusetts recently adopted some sort of plan to limit or curb panhandling at streetlights and on and off ramps. It's not that the people do deserve a chance to get money however they can. I'm sympathetic towards that, but try to figure out a way so that maybe it's not obstructing traffic intersections. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, Sean Murphy next. Mr. Walsh, I've been informed that you're out of time. Sean, go right ahead.
Yeah, traffic. Traffic is very important. We need to keep it moving. If this item doesn't work, what will?
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Let's prepare to vote on that item. Let us please, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now it's we are at item 11. I'd like to call up. I'm apologizing already. Yes, so if you'd come forward, and I'll let you identify yourself, and I promise you that I'm going to get your name, and you'll be filed. Collegian, Mr. Well, anyway, Donna Pierman is next. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yair Kishushian with the Central City Association.
I'm getting closer.
Good morning. We would like to applaud council efforts in establishing this ad hoc committee on business tax reform. This is a first step forward in helping the private sector during these difficult economic times. Many would agree with you and say that the gross receipts tax is the #1 fix-it item to help the business community right now. However, others may argue that the gross receipts tax is low on the priority list. We encourage you to have a broader conversation with the business community to discuss some additional obstacles to investment and identify what those impediments are besides the gross receipts tax. By broadening the parameters of this committee, we can really determine what the priorities for change should be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Donna Pearman?
Yes, I hope that when you come up with this business grocery receipt tax, that you come up with the small businesses. As I say, there was 10 businesses along Ventura Boulevard from Reseda Boulevard to Wilbur. They're out of business. So we need to be able to help the small businesses and stop just helping out the large businesses with supposedly a lot of people working on, but we need to help the small businesses. And second of all, we need to help, I hope this doesn't come to the detriment of the homeowners, that we're only helping out businesses. In the meantime, more people are going to lose their homes. So anyways, think of small businesses, but not at the detriment of the homeowner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's members prepare to vote on this item. Let us, Madam Clerk, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, where does that bring us, Madam Clerk?
To general public comment.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Labange to come to the President's chair, and I want to call Donna Pearman, Sean Murphy, and Mr. Juarez.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is it? Oh yeah, I'm waiting for him for Tom Labange.
Continue, please.
All right, my name is Donna Perriman. I want to tell you, Miriam Fogler is still doing Shiva, or in Shiva with her sister Diane for the passing of their father, Morris Firestone, Rabbi and Cantor. I will let Miriam and Diane speak more on that issue. I hope to speak to Councilman Rosendahl after the meeting if he can. Anyway, let's see. Anyway, I agree with them. Anyway, let's discuss. To be the mayor, you must have the San Fernando Valley vote. Closing Van Nuys video conferencing in Van Nuys tells people you don't care about the views of the San Fernando Valley. It's just Spring Street. I always heard you can't fight City Hall, even growing up. But I have a dream that the City Council is more open to the views of all Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley residents. San Fernando Valley residents will find that Van Nuys City Hall a forum to discuss things that they're concerned that are important to them. We need to reopen it and encourage residents to come. Eric Garcetti, Wendy Gruhl, and Kevin James tell me they will help if they become mayor to help fund or reopen the video conferencing, and I'm hoping also Jan Perry will do the same. And Van Nuys, people don't care. People don't come because they feel you don't care. It's all about. We need to also have town meetings too at night. Councilman, can you give a little bit of time in each district so people can tell you who work? To tell you what they need and what they feel their views. Oh yeah, lastly, Eric Garcetti for mayor.
Thank you very much. Please, Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, Sean, good morning. I want the mayor, come to Notre Dame High School tomorrow night. There's a Mirror Oils debate, the third or fourth one. Monday's a Dr. King holiday. The Kingdom Day will be parade on Saturday instead of Monday because Obama is getting sworn in on Monday. It will be on TV. We need to keep the streets open, the libraries open, and no layoffs.
Sean, tell people where Notre Dame High School is.
It's in Sherman Oaks on Woodman and Riverside Drive. You can't miss it.
Thank you, Sean.
Sorry, Tom.
Juan Dollhouse, for one moment, please. Mr. Koretz.
Yes, I just wanted to ask that item number 10 go forthwith.
Forthwith, so ordered.
Thank you.
Juan Dollhouse.
Yes. I used to be a teacher. I went to Cal State Long Beach. I graduated in bilingual education, and now I am doing my PhD on homelessness. You know how I'm doing it? By living on the damn streets. And when I come here, there is a member, I don't see him today, he's been here like 30 years. I ask him, what do you do here? He goes, well, I'm just kind of here. And he goes, what you're proposing sounds like socialism. And I say to him, are you kidding me? See, after 4 years out on the streets, I went and applied for food stamps. You know what food stamps is? Oh, that's socialism. That's social services. I get $200 in food, and sometimes I get $200 in cash. That's more than enough for me. I went to my house Christmas time, which I am the owner of 11010 Studebaker Road, but I found it empty. My family had moved out without notifying me 2 months ago. And then I went back again, and somebody's remodeling it. Somebody's taking over my house without ever notifying me of anything going on. See, I borrowed $50,000 from a guy named Mulhern, and he has found a way to get my house without my signatures. Is that possible in real estate? Yes, it is. We have a homeless making system.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to call up John Walsh, Daniel Gus, Glenn Bailey. Hey, Mr. Clerk, I'm sorry, I don't have...
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, and chairman of the Anybody But Garcetti for Mayor. Garcetti is not here now. We had a murder on Hollywood Boulevard out of a nightclub called the Empire Club. Let me tell you, the fight started in the club. The guy who was murdered was 19 years old. Well, how did he get into a club? You're supposed to be 21. Well, the LAPD has this deal, which you set up, allow what are known as 18-plus clubs. That's where all the problems are. That's where kids are introduced to sex and drugs. 19-year-old murdered, you don't give a damn. Okay, the mayor is right now in D.C., being interviewed by Obama for U.S. DOT secretary. Let me tell you, people have called me who understand the cartel. I said that the cartel that owned the Ganzo Hotel is the Zetas cartel. I'm being told that it's the Sinaloa cartel. In any case, the mayor was in a cartel-controlled club. It's just been built. Every room has surveillance cameras. Everything that the mayor did is now in the hands of the drug cartel and what are they going to do with it? They are going to blackmail Antonio. And if Barack Obama wants a blackmail victim in his cabinet, that's exactly what's going to happen. Everything I've told you before, everything I say, John Walsh's psychotic ravings of last week, conventional wisdom of this week. The mayor is in the hands of the Sinaloa drug cartel. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Daniel Gus.
Yes, sir. I actually came down here to talk about some people who should be elected to their next office. First and foremost, Dennis Zine. I know he's involved in a whole lot of issues in Los Angeles. I'm only qualified to speak about animal welfare. We had an awful general manager of LA Animal Services named Ed Boakes. Dennis Zine was the #1 person that animal rescuers and people who care about animals went to. He gathered the information. He worked behind the scenes on a politically sensitive issue. Dennis Zine helped rid the city of Ed Boakes. He deserves to be our next controller. Last year, we had a corrupt commissioner at Animal Services named Ruth Ann Secunda, a wealthy, wealthy woman who decided that she didn't have to pay her animal license fees. Dennis Zine gathered the information. It was politically sensitive because she's a talent agent. We know how much the mayor likes famous people. Dennis Zine worked behind the scenes. Dennis Zine got rid of this corrupt commissioner. Dennis Zine has earned everybody's vote for city controller. I met with Kevin James last week. He's developing a tremendous animal welfare platform. I won't comment today about Wendy or Eric or Jan, but will very soon. But I can't get Eric Garcetti to deal with humane problems in his own district. They don't return your phone calls. And we need a breath of fresh air in the mayor's office. We need a moderate Republican who's socially liberal. The last time this city was in good shape was when we had a moderate Republican named Richard Reardon. Jose Segala is running for CD13. He lives in CD13 since the early 90s. Mitch O'Farrell worked for Eric Garcetti for year after year after year and lived in North Hollywood. When did Mitch O'Farrell move into CD13? 4 months ago. Matt Szabo moved in a year ago. He was living in West Hollywood. Mr. Choi, another carpetbagger. If CD13, if you're smart, you'll vote for the guy who's been your neighbor, been on the scene since the early 90s, Jose Segala. He even has LA in his last name. Thank you.
Glenn Bailey.
Good morning, council members. Glenn Bailey from the San Fernando Valley, so that brings up my first comment. I think it was penny wise and pound foolish to disconnect the remote video conferencing from Van Nuys City Hall and thereby disenfranchising, and also San Pedro, by therefore disenfranchising in the valley 40% of the city's electorate and residents from easy, convenient opportunity to dialogue with their city council. For $10,000 of the reported savings, even doubling it, it's, pennies considering the loss. Also, regarding Van Nuys, I would like to request that when you do come to Van Nuys, which is now every 2 months instead of every month, that you please group items on that agenda that are valley-related items. Instead of doing the 2 days before or the following Tuesday, put them on the Van Nuys agenda so it's convenient for people at least once every 2 months to engage on that. In my final minute, I'd like to comment about the Sepulveda Basin Wildlife Area destruction that occurred last month by the Army Corps of Engineers, where they destroyed native habitat on 43 of the acres in the southeast corner of the basin. They have just, on Thursday, the State Water Resources Control Board issued a order to them, to 26-point order to provide documentation as to the reasons that they took this action without appropriate environmental review. It lists in the Army Corps' response to date that this was done because of the city council. They're blaming the city council. And yet when I look at the city clerk's file, there is nothing in the file that the city council weighed on this except for Councilwoman Perry's motion that was introduced on January 4th. Thank you, Council Member Perry.
I want to thank the public. That concludes public comment. Sergeants, we want to thank you. Madam Clerk, what's before us at this time?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
So ordered.
That clears the desk.
Clears the desk. Any announcements, members? Mr. Reyes. Adjourning motion. Then as we rise for adjourning motions, let's rise for adjourning motions. This is just an announcement. There will be a tribute this afternoon at the Griffith Observatory for the late, great Huell Hauser. There will be a shuttle operational from 3 in the afternoon from the Greek Theater parking lots. All are welcome to come. It will be a tribute to his life, and the sun will set and we'll think of the California gold that Hugh Hauser brought to all of us. That's this afternoon. That is an announcement. Now we have adjourning motions. May I start on this side with Mr. Reyes, followed by Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, Delfina Gutierrez passed away January 11th. She was 86 years old. Delfina Gutierrez was born in El Paso, Texas in 1926. She moved to Los Angeles in 1950 with her husband, Manuel. They had 2 other children, Laura and Richard. They settled in Glassell Park in 1969. In 1970, Delfina Gutierrez went to work at Occidental College. She was a manager of the cooler. She retired in 1990. In her spare time, she volunteered at her local church and encouraged her children to help their fellow man. She was a loving, caring woman who always had a wonderful smile. She will be missed greatly and will live on forever in the hearts of her family and friends. Delfina Gutierrez was the mother of Laura Gutierrez, who was the president of Glassell Park Improvement Association and has been a community activist in Glassell Park for many years. She is survived by her daughter Laura and son Richard Gutierrez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And adjourning tributes can also be an opportunity to educate people about individuals who influenced their lives even when we were not aware of it. And I read this week and I thought it was worthy of note. Gerda Lerner, a true pioneer in the field of women's history, born in 1920 in Vienna, spent her teenage years imprisoned by the Nazis, and in 1939 her father secured her release and she immigrated to America. In 1965 she earned a master's degree in history from the New School for Social Research in New York, followed by her doctorate from Columbia University in 1966. She was a groundbreaking feminist historian, credited with developing the nation's first graduate program in women's history at Sarah Lawrence College in 1972, and she later founded a doctoral program in the subject at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. She had set out to improve that women too had a history that had been neglected by her male peers for many years. Through her many publications, she detailed women's contributions to history through their diaries, letters, and other original documents which would serve as primary resources for a host of scholars to follow. A founding member of the National Organization for Women, she encouraged other women to become activists. Her dissertation about Sarah and Angelina Grimke, the American abolitionists and suffragists, was published in 1967 and is still assigned in college courses even today. She received 14 honorary degrees over the years and saw many of her major works become standard texts in women's history. She is survived by her son Dan, daughter Stephanie, sister Nora, and 4 grandchildren.
She rested, please. Members, I ask we adjourn in memory of Vincent Morrison, who called Los Angeles his home for over 46 years. For over 22 of those years, he worked for the Rapid Transit District, which was the agency that predates our MTA of today. He was a bus driver and was loved by his riders, was very a congenial gentleman who enjoyed the job that he had and the work that he did. He retired in Florida many years later and died recently at the age of 89 of natural causes. He was a hardworking man who spent time with his family, loved his life, and lived a good life. He's survived by his son Vincent Morris Jr. as well as William Michael Morris. We ask we adjourn in memory on this day to Vincent Morrison. Seeing that, go ahead, serve the city well this day. This meeting now is adjourned.